Hi and welcome to the Forest of Arden. My name is Chris Ryan and welcome to this second video in the series How to Rip Your Irons. Video 2, this video is looking at the backswing. What do we need in the backswing to give yourself the best chance of achieving the all-elusive Tour Pro impact? So welcome back to the Forest of Arden and welcome to video number 2 in the 4-part video series How You Can Hit Your Irons Better. This is the second video, as I say, so if you haven't seen the first one, I will link it up in the corner here. It probably makes sense to watch them in the order that they were meant to be. So video 1 is linked up there. Go and watch that first and then come back and watch this one. So what are we going to cover in this video? Well, we're going to look at the backswing. We've already covered the setup. We've looked at exactly what we're trying to do at impact with our irons. So now we're going to talk about the backswing and really how we need to move the golf club and our bodies through into the backswing in order to give ourselves the best chance of creating those impact conditions that we spoke about in video 1. Certainly if I'm the golfer who, sets myself up correctly, but if I've got a backswing which is, very, very unique or individual, it's going to make it more difficult for me to create those numbers. We can do it, absolutely. You're going to see golfers out there on the PJ Tour, LPJ Tour, who have got all these weird and wonderful backswings, but they can get it down to impact. Some golfers are those golfers, but they are highly skilled. The chances are, if you're watching this, you're looking to improve your iron game. Improving your backswing can improve your chances of striking the ball better down at impact. So, we have an alignment stick here because we're going to first of all talk about the first move away from the golf ball. First move away from the golf ball is as far away from impact as we can get in the golf swing. So it's not going to directly influence it in many cases, but it's going to help us as we start to move our body in the club and hopefully get it on the right track. So you'll notice that when I take my setup to this golf ball, the alignment stick is about at the same angle as the golf club that I'm using, which is a 7-iron. This would be a fantastic way for you to set yourself up in practice. I'm on grass here, so the alignment stick is in grass. If you don't have this, you can use just a range basket and you can pop that through that range basket and you can create the same little situation. So what am I looking to do in the takeaway? Well, there's a lot of things really that happen in the takeaway. Yes, the club is moving, but my arms are moving, my shoulders are moving, my hips are moving, my knees are moving. I'm starting to rotate, I'm starting to change my tilts, as we call it. So there's a lot going on. We're going to try and keep it fairly simple in this little exercise. We should really try and get the golf club tracing pretty much onto this alignment stick that you can see. What I would tend to find here would be that the club shaft would be about parallel to where I'm trying to go, so my ball to target line. Notice how at this point there's a good amount of turn in my shoulders, there's a little bit of turn in my hips, and there's a little bit of turn in my knees. That would be how I want you to move the golf club away. If I am the golfer who doesn't rotate my knees and my hips in that takeaway, unfortunately I see a lot of these golfers. If I don't use my lower body at all, a couple of things are going to happen. One, the club often gets rolled inside here, and you'll notice that as I do that, the grip tends to move away from my body. Or we often find that this trail arm starts to bend too much in order to keep the club in its position. So very, very common would be for me to see a golfer, position the golf club quite nicely, but have a very, very flexed trail arm because there's a lack of rotation. What you'll see from the face view there is already I've got the hands a little bit too close to my chest, and as I go back, I'm going to find I get a very, very narrow swing. So we'd like to keep some good width in that takeaway. And the way that we do that is by allowing our knees to rotate, allowing our hips to rotate, allowing our upper body to rotate. And yes, my trail arm has begun to fold, but it's folding a little bit and it's allowing me, as I say, to keep some width in that golf swing. When we get to this first parallel point here, the leading edge of the golf club, the grooves, would be, well, I would like to see them vertical or slightly turned in, so matching my body angle. Somewhere between the two would be absolutely fine. Where those grooves are is really going to depend on how early you're starting to fold your arms. So if I am a golfer who doesn't fold my arms particularly early, I'm going to find that the club face tends to match my body angle. If I'm the golfer who has a little bit more forearm rotation early on, I'm going to find that the grooves are about vertical. So there is no perfect position here, but as long as you're kind of within those two parameters, then we should be okay. So remember, in your takeaway, allow the knees to rotate, allow the hips to rotate, allow the upper body to rotate, allow the trail arm to fold, keep some width in that golf swing, and that's going to get your golf swing off to the best possible start. So now we're going to look at A little bit of weight shift, a little bit of pressure shift, and the difference between the two. You'll notice that I have got my 2 alignment sticks in the ground here. When I set up this golf ball, you'll be able to see where they are positioned. And I'm using these to help me understand how to rotate my body, how to shift pressure in the golf swing, and how that might be different to shifting weight. So let's just go through those 2 things. In the golf swing, what we would tend to see from the good golfers, the elite golfers, the ones who hit the ball the way that we would like to hit the ball, they will transfer and they will shift pressure in their backswing to their trail side, and then in the downswing, which we'll come to in the next video, onto their lead side. The difference is a pressure shift, which is what they do, is not necessarily visible. A weight shift, where I actually move my mass, my body, onto my trail side, that is quite visible. So you would quite clearly see that I've moved my mass over to my right side. This is what many golfers are doing because they've been told to get their weight onto their trail side. We don't need to get your weight onto the trail side, we need to shift pressure. So as I make these little rehearsals, this is me shifting pressure. And you can see that because I'm able to lift up my lead heel. But at no stage am I shifting my mass onto my trail side. If we're looking to hit your golf shots with your irons crisply, we need to shift some pressure. Shifting weight is a good way to really lose that strike, hit those weak shots that many of you will be hitting. So what are we doing with these alignment sticks? Well, when I take my starting position, you can see how I've got them just outside my heels, and it's given me a reference point relative to my hips. Now, certainly what I would like you to do in practice is be able to rotate and certainly keep your hips within those alignment sticks. Many of you will find that as you rotate, you move more across to this one on the trail side. This is a sure way that you're shifting your weight as opposed to your pressure. Now, if I was to make a backswing and stop, this would be pretty much the look I want. As I stop, this is now a static position. I have not shifted any pressure because it's a static position. A pressure shift, a good pressure shift, will only happen when there is a motion, a full motion with a backswing and a downswing. So when you're rehearsing this, or when I'm rehearsing this with golfers, many of the golfers that I see, their first instinct when they do this will be to say, I don't feel like I've got any weight on my trail side. This is absolutely fine because we haven't shifted weight. It's a static position that they're working into, so that it's not going to feel like a pressure shift. When we actually blend that into a swing, then yes, there will be a pressure shift. So this is a great little exercise for you to ensure that you're staying centered over the golf ball, which is really, really key, and also making sure that we are shifting pressure as opposed to weight. So let's just go ahead and do a couple of rehearsals. Notice how in my backswing, my head will be allowed to rotate, but I'm staying very much over the golf ball. I've actually created a little bit more of a gap between my trail hip and the alignment stick versus where it was at the start. You'll notice that the distance there is getting slightly greater as I wind up. That does not mean my weight is going forwards, it just means I'm rotating my hips correctly and I'm able to create some pressure into this trail side without shifting my mass over onto that trail side. Really important, the difference between pressure shift and weight shift. We have to understand the two and make sure we're practicing it correctly so we're working to a pressure shift, not a weight shift. So in order for you to make a good backswing and give ourselves the greatest chance of striking this ball as we want, the key things to remember from this video would be to ensure that early on in the golf swing we're getting the golf club moving in the right fashion by allowing the body to rotate, and then we are making sure that we're rotating more on top of the golf ball, yet we are still shifting our pressure. All too often, the common faults I see would be a takeaway which is poor, a weight shift over here, and then from this position, you can imagine it's going to be very difficult for me to create that desired impact. So, ensuring you're moving towards a pressure shift and your golf swing is getting off to the best start are the key takeaways from this video. Right, let's finish up with a shot. I should be good at this 15th hole by the end of this video series because I've hit 3 or 4 already. So, let's see if I can hit a little bit better than the last one, which was online just a little bit short. And that one is looking a lot better. That might even, do you know what, I thought I was going to go in for a minute. It's actually about 10 feet short, right on line. If it had a bigger bounce, it might have gone in. I'm not sure if the camera would have picked that up anyway. Right, so make sure you check back for videos 3 and 4, which are going to be covering downswing and impacts. But make sure you use the comments box down below. Give this video a thumbs up if you did like it. Really does help me. And over here, click on my logo. That will allow you to be a free subscriber. It means you won't miss any of the upcoming videos. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you back for video 3 very, very shortly.